If you looked at the South Bay of Los Angeles like a decade ago, you basically saw this decaying relic of the Cold War.
Yeah, just empty warehouses.
Right. Empty warehouses, fleeing aerospace companies. I mean, it was a region that everyone broadly assumed was, just way past its prime.
It was essentially a place you drove through to get somewhere else.
Exactly. But today, it is the undisputed global epicenter of a $19 billion space tech revolution.
It's incredible.
It really is. And in the process of that rebirth, it is just breaking absolutely every established rule of commercial real estate.
It really is a masterclass in how a single defining industry, and honestly a single defining company, can completely alter the physical landscape.
Yeah.
And, the economic gravity of an entire region. We usually think of real estate as this rigid blueprint of supply and demand.
Right. The old build it and they will come mentality.
Exactly. But what is happening in Southern California right now proves that buildings are entirely at the mercy of the talent they house.
Okay, let's unpack this, because our mission today is to figure out exactly how this transformation happened.
Right.
And what it actually means for the future.
Absolutely.
We are looking at a massive stack of commercial real estate reports, deep market analyses from Kidder Matthews and JLL, and all this industry news.
And they all point to this massive structural shift.
Yeah, a total shift in the industrial market. So whether you are an institutional investor, looking for the next big asset class, or a tech worker, or just insanely curious about how cities evolve in real time, this deep dive is going to give you a shortcut.
A shortcut to understanding what analysts are actually calling the SpaceX effect.
Right. The SpaceX effect.
Yeah. So to really grasp the real estate shift here, you first have to understand the specific workforce filling these buildings.
Okay.
Following World War II, the South Bay, so we're talking cities like El Segundo, Torrance, Hawthorne. That was the undisputed home of U.S. aerospace.
Right. You have those massive giants there.
Yeah. Northrop, Hughes Aircraft, McDonnell Douglas, they were all thriving there because of the proximity to, deepwater ports, massive airports, and major universities.
But when the Cold War ended, the defense spending basically dried up.
Pretty much overnight, yeah.
Yeah, I was reading that aerospace employment in L.A. County plummeted by roughly 50% in the late 90s.
It was a massive hit to the region.
Companies merged, they consolidated, and, many just fled California altogether. The region's golden era seemed completely over.
It did. It really did, right up until December 2015.
Oh, right.
That was the absolute catalyst. SpaceX, which was just this, little-known aerospace firm operating out of Hawthorne at the time.
Which people still thought of as kind of a crazy startup.
Exactly. But then they achieved the first ever vertical landing of an orbital rocket booster at Vandenberg Space Force Base.
And why was that specific moment so crucial for the real estate market? How does a rocket landing affect a warehouse?
Because it fundamentally changed the economics of space. Before that moment, rockets were entirely disposable.
Right. You launch it and it's gone.
Yeah. You launched a multi-million-dollar vehicle and it literally just crashed into the ocean.
Wow.
So proving rocket reusability wasn't just a theory anymore meant the inherent cost of launching payloads plummeted.
So it became an actual business.
Exactly. Suddenly, space was a viable commercial market. A flood of venture capital began pouring in, and SpaceX, they had to scale up their physical footprint and their workforce just dramatically.
I know they grew fast, but what did that actually look like for the local population?
Well, to put the numbers in perspective, SpaceX had about 20 engineers in 2004.
Just 20?
Just 20. Today, they have over 10,000 employees in the area.
That is insane.
Right. They literally make up over 1% of the entire South Bay's population now.
Wow.
But the true SpaceX effect isn't just about one giant company absorbing square footage. It's the entrepreneurial engine it created.
Oh, like the spin-offs and stuff.
Exactly. The SpaceX Alumni Network has gone on to found over 90 different companies.
Wait, really? Almost 100 companies?
Yeah, and they've raised more than $19 billion in venture capital.
Okay, so I'm looking at this massive influx of startups, right?
Yeah.
And I'm honestly struggling to make it make sense.
How so?
Well, we hear constantly about the California exodus, the high taxes, the strict zoning, the heavy regulation.
Right, the usual complaints.
Exactly. So why wouldn't these highly capitalized founders take their billions in venture funding and just build a massive, cheap facility in Texas or Florida?
Because advanced manufacturing is purely talent-driven.
Okay.
It operates on the exact same logic that is currently cramming, AI companies into San Francisco despite the astronomical costs.
Ah, so they have to be where the brains are.
You simply cannot build next-generation satellites or autonomous defense systems without a very specific, highly concentrated pool of engineering talent.
That makes sense.
These hard tech companies, they must be near the universities feeding the pipeline, like USC and Caltech.
Right, the fresh talent.
And they need to be adjacent to the military infrastructure, too, like the Space Force headquarters, which actually set up shop in El Segundo in 2021.
Oh, I didn't realize that was so recent.
Yeah. And the result of all this is that El Segundo now has the second highest density of PhDs in the entire state of California.
Wow.
Yeah, you just can't replicate that brain trust in a cheaper state overnight.
So you've got this hyper-concentrated talent pool, billions in venture capital, and they're launching dozens of new hard tech companies every year.
Constantly, yeah.
But where do they actually build this hardware? Because the existing buildings in the South Bay, they seem completely wrong for this century.
No, they are. We are seeing a massive supply and demand mismatch right now.
Because of the old infrastructure.
Exactly. Think about the industrial developments built over the last 10 to 15 years. They were heavily optimized for e-commerce.
Right, for the Amazon boom.
Yeah, they were designed primarily as distribution warehouses.
So you're talking about those massive tilt-up concrete boxes.
Right.
With 50 dock doors for semi-trucks, huge container yards.
And virtually no inside infrastructure other than some basic lighting, exactly.
Okay.
But hard tech manufacturing requires an entirely different physical skeleton. They aren't storing cardboard boxes.
They're building literal spaceships.
Right. They're building complex, heavy machinery, so they require massive specialized power grids.
Oh, sure.
And they need highly reinforced floor load capacities because think about a 10-ton CNC machine.
Those are those massive computer-controlled milling systems, right, for cutting aerospace-grade metal.
Exactly. If you have one of those vibrating on a standard warehouse floor, it will literally shake itself out of calibration.
Oh, wow. I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah, and they also need specialized HVAC systems for clean rooms, and critically, they need a really high office-to-warehouse ratio.
Why is that? Because of the engineers?
Yes. Because you have hundreds of software and hardware engineers who need to work directly alongside the assembly line.
Okay, it's almost like, think of it like trying to plug a supercomputer into a standard residential wall outlet.
That's a great way to put it.
Like the outer shell of the building is there, but the internal guts are completely incapable of handling the demand.
What's fascinating here is how this frantic demand for the right kind of guts is reflecting in the market data.
Right, the Kidder-Matthews numbers.
Yeah. According to their latest report, the overall industrial vacancy rate for Los Angeles is hovering around 5.8%.
Which is pretty normal, right?
Yeah, somewhat healthy. But if you zoom in on El Segundo, the vacancy rate is under 2%.
Under 2%. That's virtually zero.
It's incredibly tight. Space, satellite, and nuclear energy companies are coming in and paying absolute premium rates just to secure whatever specialized space they can find.
I was actually reading in the stack about a company called Flightwave Aerospace Systems. They make drones, right?
Yep. Highly specialized drones.
So how does a company like that actually navigate this real estate shortage?
Honestly, it creates a really chaotic expansion cycle.
Like constantly moving.
Pretty much. Flightwave signed a lease for a 15,000 square foot facility in Carson.
Okay.
But just 7 months later, their prototyping and production had scaled so aggressively that they had to literally break their lease.
After just 7 months.
Yeah. They had to move into a facility in neighboring Torrance that was more than triple the size.
That is wild.
And they are far from the only ones. Trio Manufacturing, which is an aircraft engineering firm, they just tripled their space to 123,000 square feet in Gardena.
Wow.
And Aerospace Lab just opened a brand new 35,000 square foot satellite facility in Torrance.
Which creates a fascinating dynamic for property owners, right?
Oh, absolutely.
If you own an empty 1990s distribution center right now, you're sitting on a gold mine if you know how to upgrade it.
Exactly. Institutional investors and real estate developers are pivoting hard toward what they call manufacturing conversions.
Right, gutting the old warehouses.
Yeah, they are buying up these older traditional warehouses that e-commerce companies just don't want anymore.
And then what? Just pouring money into them.
Heavy capital, yeah. They pour new concrete slabs, upgrade the power capacity, and build out high-end R&D office space.
So they completely rewire the building.
Precisely. By doing that, they transform a stagnant asset into a highly protected commodity. And that commands massive rent premiums, leaving standard distribution facilities completely in the dust.
Okay, so you've poured the concrete, you've upgraded the grid, and you've built this super-powered factory.
Right.
But these aren't just assembly lines staffed by robots.
No, not at all.
You have thousands of highly paid PhDs and engineers working in these buildings. So what happens when they clock out?
That is where the neighborhood shifts.
Because the real estate market isn't just changing the factory floor, right?
Yeah.
It seems to be completely rewriting the surrounding areas.
It really is. The traditional office market is taking a massive hit, while a new category is absolutely exploding.
The lifestyle centers.
Exactly. The industry calls them lifestyle mixed-use environments.
Yeah, according to a recent JLL report we've got in our stack here, these live work-play environments currently make up only 4% of the U.S. office space inventory.
Just a tiny fraction right now.
Right. But they are projected to hit 30% by 2040.
It's a huge jump.
But here's my question. Why would any company voluntarily pay? What JLL notes is a 32% rent premium just to have a coffee shop and a gym downstairs.
It comes down to the brutal math of talent retention.
Keeping the engineers happy.
Exactly. In an era of hybrid work, you just cannot force a highly sought-after aerospace engineer to commute to some sterile, isolated business park built in the 1990s.
Right, because they have options.
Lots of options.
Yeah.
If they hate their work environment, they will literally just take a job at a competitor down the street.
And replacing them is expensive.
Exponentially more expensive than paying a 32% premium on a lease. Organizations realize they must pay for location-based amenities to organically attract employees into the physical workspace.
The sources point to places like the Battery in Atlanta, right?
Yes, that's a perfect example.
It's a massive mixed-use development anchored by a major sports stadium. And the office vacancy rate there is like 0.5%.
Which is basically fully leased.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the broader metro average around it is pushing 26%. That is a staggering divergence.
And this ties directly into a massive resurgence in retail real estate as well.
Really?
Yeah, institutional capital is flowing back into retail at levels we honestly haven't seen in years. Data from the ICSC shows a 26% jump in retail property sales.
Wait, a 26% jump?
Yeah, hitting over $71.6 billion last year.
I have to say, this completely flips the script on everything we've heard for the last 5 years.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, we've been told over and over that the office is dead.
Yeah.
And that we are living through a retail apocalypse.
Right, the death of the mall.
Exactly. But looking at these sources, retail and offices aren't actually dying, they're mutating.
They are. And the data completely backs that up. Look at the recent sale of Victoria Gardens out in the Inland Empire.
The outdoor mall.
Yeah, it's a 1.2 million square foot open-air mall. And it just sold for $530 million.
Wow. $500 million.
And the new ownership, which includes these major institutional players, is immediately pumping another $50 million into renovations.
Just to upgrade it.
Yeah, to enhance the landscaping, the public plazas, and, all the experiential dining.
And if we bring that back to the South Bay.
Well, the Gen Z and millennial founders and engineers driving the hard tech boom, they demand vibrant 247 districts.
They don't want to drive an hour to get dinner.
Exactly. They want to leave the satellite manufacturing facility and walk to a boutique fitness class, grab a high-end dinner, and walk home to a luxury apartment.
All without ever getting on the Los Angeles freeway system.
Precisely. So investors are flocking to properties that combine residential, experiential retail, and creative office space, specifically situated near these manufacturing hubs.
Okay, so you build this perfect ecosystem, right? You have the lifestyle centers, the upgraded factories.
Yeah.
But these startups are growing like 300% a year. Eventually, they physically cannot fit in a small city like El Segundo anymore.
That's the inevitable bottleneck.
So what happens to the region when these companies inevitably outgrow it?
The South Bay has actually developed a very specific life cycle for these startups.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Small cities like El Segundo act as incredibly dense incubators, but as a company succeeds and needs to manufacture at scale, they migrate slightly south or east.
So where?
To cities like Torrance or Long Beach, which the industry has actually started calling Launch Beach.
Launch Beach, that's amazing.
Yeah, due to the sheer density of space companies there now. And eventually, if they reach truly massive industrial scale, they might have to leave California entirely.
Because they just need too much land.
Right. The defense contractor Endural, for example, is building a 5 million square foot production campus in Ohio right now just to find enough raw acreage.
It feels Think of it like a coral reef.
Okay, I like that.
You have this shallow, dense incubator reef where all the life starts, right? And the nutrients are super rich.
Right.
Then you have the deep water currents carrying the really big fish away as they grow. But the ecosystem doesn't die when they leave, does it?
Not at all.
Because the founders cash out and return to El Segundo to start their next venture. They just repollinate the reef.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is a highly self-sustaining cycle. And interestingly, it is about to get a major layer of protection from new state regulations.
Oh, from the government.
Yeah. California recently passed Assembly Bill 98, which actually goes into effect in January 2026.
Right.
This law severely limits new warehouse development for properties over 250,000 square feet. It imposes, strict buffers and heavy environmental standards.
Wait, if they're limiting new warehouse development, won't that choke out the industrial market and hurt these startups?
You'd think so, but counterintuitively, it actually benefits the existing property owners immensely.
How does that work?
Because the law limits new development. So the current inventory of warehouses becomes significantly more valuable.
Scarcity.
Exactly. If you already own a facility in the South Bay that can be repositioned for hard tech manufacturing, your asset is now insulated from future competition.
That is a massive advantage. Now, it's worth noting for you listening, and we are just looking purely at the market data here, neutrally conveying the economic drivers without taking any political stance or endorsing any administration's policies.
Of course.
But the sources point out an incoming macroeconomic shift at the federal level.
Right, the funding changes.
Yeah, according to the Commercial Observer, the new Trump administration has placed a distinct focus on ensuring funding goes to newer, non-prime contractors.
To reindustrialize the American aerospace and defense economy.
Exactly.
From a purely real estate perspective, that policy shift is massive.
Because the money is moving.
Yeah. Historically, government venture funding flowed almost exclusively to the giant prime contractors, the Boeings and the Lockheed Martins.
Right.
Expanding that funding directly into the coffers of these agile, non-prime startups in the South Bay ensures that their demand for real estate and their ability to pay those premium rents will likely remain incredibly strong for the foreseeable future.
So as we look ahead to 2026 and beyond, how do you synthesize all of this?
Adaptability is the absolute defining theme.
Adaptability.
Yeah. Landlords who recognize this structural shift, those who pour the concrete to reinforce their floors, who upgrade their industrial power grids, and who curate their retail spaces to offer genuine high-end experiences, they are going to win big.
And the ones who don't.
Conversely, property owners who cling to the old blueprint, hoping to just lease out a basic, unupgraded distribution warehouse or a sterile, unamenitized office park.
They're in trouble.
They're going to face soaring vacancies and rising operational costs.
Wow. Okay, so to bring this all together, we started by looking at a single rocket landing vertically on a pad back in 2015.
A single moment.
Yeah. And from that one spark of innovation, we traced the creation of a $19 billion startup ecosystem.
It's staggering.
We explored how that hyper-concentrated pool of genius has fundamentally rewired the physical demands of industrial real estate, right? Forcing basic warehouses to become these super-powered factories.
Exactly.
And we saw how the demands of that specific workforce are completely redefining what an office or a retail center even needs to be to survive.
Ushering in that lifestyle mixed-use era.
Yes. The ultimate takeaway here seems to be that the built environment isn't static. It is entirely at the mercy of the talent it seeks to house.
It really is. But, as we look at all this data and we see the millions of dollars being poured into upgrading these facilities here on Earth, it raises a pretty important question, one that, pushes slightly past our immediate sources, but honestly feels entirely inevitable.
Oh, I'm intrigued. What is it?
Well, we've just spent our time analyzing how the SpaceX effect and this whole pursuit of hard tech has completely transformed the South Bay's real estate.
Right.
But what happens to the concept of commercial real estate if these companies actually succeed in their ultimate goal?
What do you mean?
Think about it. If launch costs drop low enough, the end game for many of these firms is moving heavy, toxic, and complex manufacturing completely off-planet, into orbit or even beyond.
Oh, wow. I hadn't even thought of that.
Will these premium, high-power, heavily reinforced facilities that investors are banking on today, Will they eventually just become empty artifacts?
Like historical monuments.
Exactly. Will we look back at them as relics of a time when humanity still had to build its spaceships and satellites while fighting Earth's gravity?
That completely changes the blueprint all over again. I love that.
It's something to think about.
A massive thank you to you, our listener, for joining us on this deep dive into the sources today. It is a wildly changing landscape out there, from the factory floor to the upper atmosphere. So keep analyzing those blueprints and, most importantly, keep questioning the world around you. We'll catch you next time.